In a quiet village where whispers traveled faster than the wind, two sisters lived under the same roof yet walked separate paths, Kita and Ifechi. They shared a father but not a bond, for their mothers had been sworn enemies long before they were even born. Kita, the elder, was the daughter of the first wife, a kind-hearted girl who believed in love and unity. Ifechi, born to the second wife, had grown up drenched in the bitterness her mother harbored. Every glance, every word between them was tainted with the shadows of their mother's rivalry. But Kita never gave up. She tried again and again to reach out to mend the invisible crack between them. Ifechi, however, had no interest in sisterhood. "You're a pretender, Kita," she would snap whenever Kita extended a hand of friendship. "I see right through you." Yet, Kita refused to let hate define them. One afternoon, while wandering through the bustling village market, her eyes fell upon a dress, an exquisite piece of fabric so beautiful it seemed almost magical. A thought bloomed in her heart. If Ifechi wears this, maybe, just maybe, she'll see that I care. With hopeful hands, she purchased the dress and rushed home. But the moment she presented it, Ifechi's face twisted with disgust. "You think I don't know your tricks?" she spat. "This dress is cursed. You want something bad to happen to me." Kita felt something inside her crack, an ache so deep it almost swallowed her whole. But she said nothing. What was there to say to a heart determined to hate? A fateful encounter. The days passed, and so did the years. Cheda's efforts to build a bridge between them were met with nothing but stone walls. One evening, as she walked to the family farm, she noticed an elderly woman struggling under the weight of a heavy basket. The sight struck her heart. "Mama, let me carry that for you," she offered, rushing to help. The old woman shook her head. "No, my child. It is too much. Please, I insist." Kita smiled, gently taking the basket. The old woman watched her with curious eyes but allowed her to help. As they walked, Kita noticed the deep worry lines on the woman's face. When they arrived at the woman's home, a heartbreaking sight greeted her. A young man lay on a thin mat, his body trembling violently with fever. Sweat clung to his skin, his breath shallow and weak. "Is he your son?" Kita asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman nodded, eyes brimming with unshed tears. "He has been sick for days. I went to gather food and herbs, but I fear it is not enough." Kita didn't hesitate. Rolling up her sleeves, she went straight to the kitchen, lighting the fire and preparing a warm meal. The rich aroma filled the small hut, and for the first time in days, the old woman smiled. By the time the food was ready, the sun had disappeared behind the hills. Kita knew she had to leave, but as she walked home, her heart felt lighter than it had in a long time. She had done something good. The cruel betrayal. But fate had other plans. The moment Kita stepped into her home, she was met with pure fury. Her father stood in the middle of the room, fists clenched, eyes burning with rage. "Where have you been?" he bellowed. Before Kita could answer, Ifechi stepped forward, arms crossed, a wicked smile playing on her lips. "She was at her lover's house, father, sneaking around like a disgrace." The air turned to ice. "That's not true," Kita gasped. "I was only—" "Silence!" her father's voice roared through the house. "You have shamed this family. This is your mother's doing, raising a daughter with no morals." Kita felt the world spin. She turned to Ifechi, searching for even a hint of remorse. But Ifechi just smirked. To her, this was a victory. A war won without ever lifting a sword. Kita swallowed back her pain. There was no point in fighting. No one would believe her. A new beginning. The next morning, despite the humiliation weighing her down, Kita found her feet taking her back to the old woman's hut. She had to check on the young man. As she stepped inside, her breath caught in her throat. The young man was sitting up, eating the meal she had made the night before. His face, once drained of color, was now full of life. "You're looking much better today," she said, a small smile creeping onto her lips. At that moment, the old woman entered, her eyes shining with gratitude. "Child, meet my son, Chuma," she said. "I told him all about you, the girl with the golden heart." Chuma turned to Kita, his gaze filled with something she hadn't seen in a long time, genuine appreciation. "Thank you for saving me," he said softly. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Kita felt truly seen. Not as an enemy, not as a disgrace, but as someone who mattered. Little did she know, this one act of kindness would change her life forever. As the days passed, Chuma's strength returned, and so did his admiration for Kita. What began as gratitude soon blossomed into love. He found himself drawn to her kindness, her warmth, and the way she carried herself with grace. One evening, as the sun painted the sky in hues of orange and pink, Chuma took a deep breath and finally expressed his feelings. "Kita," he said, his voice steady yet hopeful, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Cheta's heart swelled with joy. She had grown fond of Chuma, and hearing those words made her feel as though the universe had finally smiled upon her. When Chuma approached her family with his two uncles to ask for her hand in marriage, her father watched him with cautious eyes. But when Chuma spoke, his words filled with sincerity, his intentions pure, her father nodded in approval. The traditional rites were carried out, and soon Kita became Chuma's wife. But happiness, it seemed, was not meant for everyone. Ifechi's mother watched with bitter eyes as Kita, the daughter of her sworn enemy, found love and happiness. The very thought of her daughter remaining unmarried while Kita thrived made her blood boil. Desperate to change Ifechi's fate, she convinced her to accept the only marriage proposal she had received, one from Achebi, the village drunkard. Ifechi had rejected Achebi before, unwilling to tie her future to a man who reeked of palm wine and bad decisions. But as time passed, no other suitor came for her. No man wanted a wife with a heart full of resentment and jealousy. The realization crushed Ifechi, and under her mother's relentless pressure, she finally gave in. She married Achebi, a man whose only love was the bottle, and whose only loyalty was to his own drunken stupor. Time moved forward, but the rivalry between the sisters remained. Months later, both Kita and Ifechi found themselves pregnant. For the first time in years, Kita saw this as an opportunity to mend their broken bond. "We are bringing life into this world together," she told Ifechi one evening, her voice filled with hope. "Maybe this is a sign that we were meant to be sisters, not enemies." But Ifechi was unmoved. She saw Cheta's attempts as nothing more than an act, another performance in her so-called perfect life. As their due dates approached, fate took an unexpected turn. Chuma had to travel to a neighboring village for work, leaving Kita in the care of her mother. Then, one fateful night, Ifechi's screams pierced the silence. She had gone into labor. Her mother stayed by her side, guiding her through the agonizing process. Moments later, another cry echoed through the night. It was Kita. She too was in labor. But unlike Ifechi, she had no one to help her. Her mother had fallen ill, too weak to stand, let alone assist her daughter. Desperate, she turned to Ifechi's mother. "Please," she pleaded. "Help me." A long pause, a sharp glare. Then, without a word, Ifechi's mother finally agreed. Hours passed and two newborn cries filled the air, one boy, one girl. The village rejoiced. Ifechi's mother stepped out to announce the births, her face carefully composed. "Ifechi has given birth to a strong, healthy baby boy," she declared proudly. "And Kita, a lovely baby girl." Kita, exhausted but happy, smiled at her little girl. She named her Yuma. Ifechi's son was called Afam. As the years passed, Afam and Yuma became inseparable. They defied the hostility between their mothers, forming a bond so strong that it unsettled Ifechi. She couldn't bear to see her son so close to Kita and her daughter. It was as if history was repeating itself, only this time she was the one being left behind. Fueled by jealousy, she made a fateful decision, one that would change everything. One evening, under the shroud of darkness, she visited the village's feared Juju man. "I want Kita and her daughter gone," she hissed. The Juju man, a wrinkled figure draped in mystery, nodded slowly and handed her a vial. "Pour this into her food," he instructed. "They will not see the light of day again." Ifechi's fingers trembled as she took the vial, but a thought struck her. A fam often ate at Cheda's house. What if he, too, fell victim to the curse? The Juju man sighed, sensing her fear. "Very well," he said. "To protect your son, I will require a drop of your blood." Without hesitation, Ifechi agreed, letting a single drop fall onto the cursed potion. With the charm in hand and revenge burning in her heart, she set off to complete her dark mission. For the first time in years, she knocked on Cheda's door. Kita was overjoyed, thinking that her sister had finally come to make peace. She welcomed her in with open arms, stepping away briefly to fetch drinks. In that moment, Ifechi hurried into the kitchen, uncorked the vial, and let the poison seep into the bubbling pot. Then she sat, forcing a smile, waiting for the inevitable. But fate had its own plans. Hours passed, yet nothing happened. Ifechi grew restless, then furious. She rushed back to the Juju man, demanding an explanation. He was puzzled. The charm should have worked. Unless... He trailed off, realization dawning upon him. "Unless what?" Ifechi snapped. "There is only one possibility," he murmured. "The child you think is Cheda's is not hers." A chill ran down Ifechi's spine. The truth unraveled before her like a cruel joke. The night their children were born, her own mother had switched them. Cheda's son had been given to Ifechi, while Ifechi's daughter had been placed in Cheda's arms. The very child Ifechi tried to kill was her own flesh and blood. A blood-curdling scream tore from her lips as madness consumed her. She stumbled out of the hut, her mind unraveling, her own curse turning against her. The village gathered, watching in horror as Ifechi ran through the streets, laughter and tears blending into insanity. When the truth was revealed, the village turned its back on Ifechi's mother, the woman whose deceit had ruined so many lives. Kita, though devastated, held her son Afam close, while Yuma, the girl who had always known only one mother, chose to remain by her side. And so, Ifechi lost everything: her son, her sanity, and her place in the world. A bitter lesson remained for all who watched. Jealousy and deceit bore only sorrow, and in the end, the truth would always rise. Like the sun after the darkest night.